Hey, folks, I'll tell you what, we are here with Daryl Braham, and don't you wish you had the easy button? I certainly do. Um, we're talking all about this incredible topic. And Daryl, first of all, what is the easy button?
Hi, thanks for having me, Kary. The easy button really is about 35, 40 years of me doing it the hard way
Yes,
and discovering all the stuff I wish I would have known back then that I want to try to help people with today.
I love it. I love it. And listen, I love everything about this book. I love the subtitle. I love the concept. We're going to actually show people on Amazon so we can take a deeper dive here. But it says the easy button, cut through distractions, eliminate overthinking, and simplify your path to success. And you have a beautiful, beautiful endorsement from Gino Wickman, our friend. I just saw him on Tuesday in Chicago at Strategic Coach. And I love the example here of like, hey, look, stop overthinking. Cut out the distractions, the scissors you got there, and then I love this. But listen, what do you see? I know you work with some really cool companies. You're an EOS implementer. What do you see businesses doing? Are they taking it the hard way? Are they getting distracted? Like, why did you pick this subtitle?
I think honestly, the biggest challenge that I've seen, I've been in the coaching space for about 20 years. I started my company as a hobby,
Mm,
and because I was part of Strategic Coach,
yeah.
very very much a slow learner. Was in that program for about 18 years with a great group of guys and gals. But
Yeah.
what I've discovered over the years is that everybody seems to complicate these things.
Mm,
So they're always looking for the reasons why they can't get something done, and a lot of times it goes back to, well, we've always done it this way. It's too hard to make the change. We're too big of a machine.
yep.
We're too small. We don't have enough resources. You like name the excuse. And so it really was meant to be like cut through, eliminate all of that crap, and figure out how you can get from the easiest path from A to B. And it's usually right here. People
Yeah.
get stuck in their own head, right?
Oh, yeah. I see that a lot. I meet with entrepreneurs of all different levels. At the university, I teach brand spanking new entrepreneurs, and then we even have billionaires that we publish, and I see the gamut. But you know what? I feel like whatever level an entrepreneur is at, a business is at, I feel like the temptation is the same. You know, um,
How do you mean?
well, meaning like it's just a different level of playing. Like you can actually, I got a book called Get Unhackable, but I feel like when you get hacked, which I feel like your book unhacks people, like,
Thanks.
they're getting distracted, they're overthinking. To me, that's getting hacked. And then
Yep.
your book is like, boom, the easy button to
Yep.
get unhacked. But at every level, you can get the hard button at a billion-dollar company or a
Yes.
startup. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, and
You're
we talk about this in the EOS world, and this is a strategic coach concept as well, which is hitting the ceiling, right? And in coach,
Yeah,
it was the ceiling of complexity, and in the
that's
EOS space,
right.
it's called hitting the ceiling, and it really is that complexity because people, you start a business this big, and you keep doing more of what you've been doing, and then you
Yeah,
don't realize that along the way you've introduced so much complexity into it, and it becomes the bureaucracy sets in, and death by committee and like all the stuff that got you to where you wanted to get to. You need to go back to that. You've got to sometimes have a reset.
I
And the
like it.
example that I use in my book is when I, many, many years ago, when I was told by a very successful entrepreneur leader that, I asked, and I talk about this, that I asked, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give? And she paused and she said, if you're not reading a dozen books a year, you're wasting the space in here. And I
Mm,
remember going a dozen books a year, like, wow, carry the one. I haven't read a dozen books in like the last 10 years. Like, wow,
right,
holy,
right.
how am I going to do this? And so the story really follows around at the time when I thought it was like I'd never be able to have the time to read a dozen books a year because I was running three different companies. I had young kids at home and trying to have a family life or whatever. I don't have time for this. And then you grow up and you really kind of look back and go like, oh my god, I was so stressed out about trying to figure out how I was going to read 12 books. Now I've read hundreds, right?
Mm,
But the challenge is that was something so simple that I found a way to get distracted around not being able to do it.
That's so
and
true.
I take the reader through a journey of whatever it is that you're thinking is a problem. Because if you think about this, when you think back, when you're 40 and you go back and go, if I would have only known when I was 30 what I knew when I was 40,
Sure.
and then when you're 50, and I've got a lot of really good friends that are in their 70s and 80s that are going, man, if I would have known at 70 what I know now when I'm 80. And this really takes an easy path to take readers through the
Mm,
stuff that you are fearful of, or the stuff that you know is going to be in your
yeah,
way. Just
yeah.
don't let it be in your way.
That's right. That's right. Well, I think you're onto something. First of all, your Amazon page is great. So you obviously you do speaking, and we can see that you do group work, you do coaching in teams. So you got some great stuff going on. I think we can click this, and I think we can go inside the book here, which we will in a moment. But one of the things that I want to talk about really quick is the fact that yeah, let's go to the table of contents here. Boom. I love table of contents because I
Sure.
feel like you're taking people on a journey, and these are signposts.
Yeah,
So
and I purposely try to make this as simple as I could too.
yeah.
One of my challenges in working with people is they always tell me, the clients that I coach, that they bought the book but they don't read it. And I love
Ah,
the stat that 75% of books that are bought are never read. Or the
mm,
reason why there's bookstores in airports is because everybody buys a book with the intent to read it, but the number one found place for lost books is in the back of airline seats, because people buy books and leave them in the airline
are
seat
you
when they
serious?
leave,
Wow,
right? Because they never
you're
read it.
oh,
So my
yeah.
book is 10 chapters, and I think the longest chapter is only 12 or 15 pages long.
Mm,
And it's very specifically meant to be get in, get out. So here's what's going on. At the end of every chapter, I've got three takeaways and one action item. So you've got 10 action items from the book, and you do one chapter at a time and take 10 different action steps to change your life.
I love that. I love that. And it looks even like you have interactive QR codes
I
that
do, and actually, this was from you. So here's a shout out to Igniting Souls. Part of what you guys helped me with when you did this, and I really want to say this for
yeah.
those of you that are thinking about writing a book, just do it. I'd
Mm.
hesitated for so many years. This is 15 years I've been threatening to do this, and EOS actually helped me to do it. And what led me to you guys was one of your authors had sent me a copy of a book, and I went, "Oh, this is exactly like how I wanted to do mine."
Wow.
And then that led me to you guys. And in the process of working with you, I realized you said in one of your, it might have been a
Trainings.
live session, you
Yeah.
said that you got to make it easy for people, and you got to find ways to get people to get there. And I'm writing this book, The Easy Button, and I'm going, okay, instead of telling people to do something, I'm going to put QR codes in here. So thank you to you, Corey, and Igniting
Wow.
Souls, because you guys helped me to create that.
Well, we have a great team. I think Travis might have been somebody who helped you along the way with your project. So he's here. Tanisha's here. All kinds of people are here. But
Yeah.
listen, we're a big fan of what you're doing, and I love your table of contents. You talk about something. You see these genius CEOs, and this is not a political statement, but whether it's Elon Musk coming in and cleaning house, I mean, I wake up today and I'm looking at Elon Musk like, okay, I guess he just launched robots in cars last night. I
Yep.
mean, he's got to be doing the easy button because I don't know how he gets it all done. And you look at Steve Jobs, who basically said, "Look, with Apple, we're going
Yep.
to remove all the clutter with the design. We're going to simplify." That's a big word in your book, is simplify.
Yes.
Whether it was the old school Jack Welch, who said, "Look, if GE can't be one or two,
They're
it's
out.
off the table."
Yep.
So, don't you feel like in our day of distraction that really it is the secret is about removing?
Yeah, so let's talk about the three that you just talked about. So Elon Musk, right? All of the pushback that he got with what he did at Twitter is when he bought it, he went in and he went, okay, like this is crazy. We got
Simplify.
all these people that we don't need to have. And so while there's two arguments to that side of the story, Twitter was this big when it started, and then it kept going like this, and along the way it got complex. It
Wow.
took him coming in from the outside to go, we got to simplify this, to Steve Jobs when he came in, when he came back, how he turned Apple around. I've read all the books on him and saw the movies. The books are way better than the movies, always. But he literally, that was the first thing he did. They had like 17 or 18 product lines, and he cut them back to 4 when he came back
That's
in as
true.
part of the turnaround, right? And then it
Mm,
was the exact same thing with Jack Welch. And in his book, I think it's Winning, is his book, where he talks about where companies were their strategic plan was 3 to 5 years, and they could get to the top 5 in their industry. And he went, no, if you, as you said, if you can't be 1 or 2 within the next 12 months, then we're cutting you out.
Yeah.
And it's really meant to go back to the basics. There's a great book that I read years ago from Jack Stack called The Great Game of Business. And he talked about, there's examples of this being used all the time, but he talked about how when you simplify the business down to a point where the line worker in a manufacturing plant can fully understand their impact to the bottom line of the company, they'll produce more. So simplify all the noise, the 100 pages of financial statements, down to this is your impact to us. And that's how people's lives can change.
That's so good. And I even look at your website and it looks like you're, eating your own cooking, meaning this is a simple website.
Yep.
Like, okay, you want Daryl, guess what? Here's how you get access to Daryl, coaching and consulting, books, and you got your choice. And so, do you want him as a speaker? Do you want him as a leadership trainer or a business coach? I love it. It looks amazing. And you have your services, you have the easy button here. How has the book writing process even helped you simplify your message?
I love that. So for anybody that's watching this, that's thinking about wanting to write a book, it is so important that you just got to start where you're at. I said earlier that 15 years, this was a threat of mine, right? So at Strategic Coach many years ago, it was, what do you want to do with your life? We talk about the lifetime extender and, where you want to be when you die. And if you had extra years, what would you do with them? And I'm like, well, I want to help people. And it goes right to my core. This is one of the reasons why I love EOS so much. Is one of our core values is that we help first. So for anybody that's watching this right now that reaches out to me, if they reach out to me, I'll send them a free copy of the book.
Wow.
And the reason why I'm doing it is because I just want to help. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times people are so afraid to say, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Because their ego gets in the way. And I was that guy. Like when I talk about this in the book, where when I first got started at the Strategic Coach, I wasn't necessarily honest or truthful with myself. I puffed, like this is how much better my business is, or I got that figured out, or whatever. Your ego gets in the way. And when you simplify the fact of like, I need help, I liken it to, what's the number one thing that people say when they go into the store to go shopping? They literally say, somebody says, how can I help you? And they say, no, right?
Yep.
It's the exact same thing in life. How can I help you? No, I don't need any help. I'm good. Right? When really, and you think of Robin Williams. But you imagine the suffering that he went through because he couldn't find a way to break through his own internal structure, right? Of like, I need help. And so a big part of me wanted to help first with this and my journey to get to writing this book is that I went through a bunch of this stuff and had all these limiting beliefs in my own mind. And as I've coached people and coach businesses, where we have the biggest breakthroughs is when people learn to be honest and vulnerable. And I love in Patrick Lencioni's books, I talk about it in here as well, is that the only way that you can actually become vulnerable is you've got to start first. You've got to start first. You can't expect other people to be vulnerable if you're not vulnerable first. And so, my path to writing this is that I just, I wanted to get started. My goal is 10 books in 10 years. I'm working on the follow-up to this book this winter, which actually I think I'm going to call The Hard Way. Because here's the easy button, but here's all the stuff that goes on in life where people take the hard way, right?
Wow.
I'm trying to have it be a fable. I'm kind of trying to follow in some of John Gordon's footsteps with some of the books that he's written. But
that's cool.
I think the biggest advice I would give people is that just be honest, be truthful, be vulnerable, and don't be afraid to say, I don't have the answers. And that was one of the reasons why I said, hey, this is easy. This is an easy book. It's an easy button. It's not 500 pages long. You don't have to memorize it. And I give you the answers throughout the book as you get to the end of every chapter. Here, just take this one step. Just do one thing. And quite frankly, that's how I end the book, is there's only 2 things that you have to do for anything you want to accomplish in your life. Number one is you have to make a decision.
Mm,
And deciding to not do anything is a decision,
that's the
right?
truth.
The
That
second
is the
thing
truth.
is you have to take action on your decision. So if your decision is, you know what, I want to go run a marathon, just go for a walk.
Yeah,
Just go for a walk. Just make the
break it
decision you're
down.
going to do a marathon. You're going to start a walk. If the
Yeah.
decision is that I love that from Tanisha, to be authentic. If your decision is you know what, I'm just going to be transparent, then start with some small little thing and be transparent. And I see
Mm,
as you're scrolling EOS, it the biggest changes that we see with our clients. I was just with a client in Wyoming yesterday, and the biggest change that we see with our client is when you give them time to ask them a question and give them time to process it and open up a space for them to be vulnerable.
mm,
Because
mm.
our first instinct is self preservation, is to be protective, right? And
Oh,
and I
this is
think
so good.
people don't think that they can open up and be safe,
That's right.
because
That's
and
right.
especially if they open up once and they get hurt,
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
it's like, okay, now I got a scar there,
Yeah.
right?
John Maxwell has a great slogan. He says, because he had gotten hurt early in his career, and he said, "I just started shutting my heart up." And he
Yep.
said, "The truth is nobody could hurt me, but check this out, nobody could help me either." It's like, boom, mic drop, and that's exactly what you're saying. Like, fine,
Yep.
if you got burned in the past and you close off your heart, guess what? Nobody can help you either.
Yeah, and it has to start with you. Like you've gotta, as Lencioni talks about, you've got to go mining for the conflict, right? So you've got to be vulnerable. So if you're
Ooh,
vulnerable
that's
with
good.
yourself, well, in order to actually figure out what your struggle is you've got to go mine for that conflict internally. So to John Maxwell's point, where he's talking about, nobody could help me but me. And as soon as he realized how he could help himself, then he started transforming his life to help others.
That's good.
And I think
That
that's
is
that's where
good.
such a huge opportunity is, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
Listen, this is fantastic, folks. Listen, you got ebook, you got hardcover, you got paperback, you got your options, and then we're dropping in links for the website as well. But I like how you said, look, the book is short because yeah, if you had a book called The Easy Button and it was 500 pages,
Right.
I
Right.
think
Oh,
most
and let
people
me
would be like,
I got
yeah,
to tell you
they'd
this
be
too.
like,
You talk about being vulnerable, right? So I was very proud of myself when I got my first draft done, and I gave it to my wife to have her
yeah,
read it. And okay, honey, I need some feedback here. I want to know how I'm doing. And of course, I'm very proud. I'm sure when you wrote your first book, you're like, I got this figured out. And then you gave it to the professional. So I gave it to her, and she reads it, and she's hesitant. It's good. It's good. It's good. Like it's good. So then I started working with you and your team, and God bless Travis. I don't know whether he's on or not, but if he
oh
sees
yeah,
this
he's on.
recording,
Travis is on
your team
definitely.
has
Yeah,
been awesome, and God bless Travis.
yeah,
Very much, you guys helped me to transform what was really not good into something that now is good. And as my wife said, when she read the finished copy, she went, "This is 1,000 times better than it was the first time." And I
wow,
literally went to her. I'm like, "Hey,
wow,
wait a second. Does that mean it's good or what?" And she goes, "Oh, no, no. It's like I liked it now." But then she got
wow.
honest and said, "I didn't really like it in the beginning because I wrote how I talked." And we all
That's so
talk in
good. Yeah,
stories, and
yeah,
what. So
yeah.
so I had to learn that difference, and I would want to give everybody advice. Number one, if you want to write a book, to start. Number two, work with professionals. Like, work with
Mm,
people that are going to take your ideas
yeah.
and make them make sense. Because
Ooh,
I
that's
was
cool.
quite I had to figure out my own easy button, how to get here, to get this
Mm,
book to get done. And
that's right.
the reason why I share this story as part of this is I don't care where people are in their life or in their world, whether in their personal life, whether they're young or mature and full of
Mm,
wisdom, whether they're just getting started or they're a multi-billionaire. Everybody has got challenges that they are making complex in their own head. And
that's
my
right.
advice to you is just get down to the core. In EOS, we say, what's the issue? When you've got to say it in 5 to 7 words.
Ooh, that's so good. I
So
love
when
by the
you
way, yeah,
go ahead.
EOS, I love EOS
Oh,
people.
I know.
I looked at your website, all the people that popped up, Mark and Jill Young and,
Yeah.
Kelly Knight, and, you just got some really good people there. And then you mentioned strategic coach. So I just want Tanisha, tag strategic coach, tag EOS. We want them to see this. We want them to get some love. By the way, I'll say this really quick. You have people right now watching from Scotland.
Hey,
So
hi, how are you
yeah,
doing?
this is Maureen. She's one of our author alumni. She's got a great book. But I mean, isn't that crazy? Daryl, it's like I tell people, a book is not only passive income, but it's passive impact. And I think you're gonna start seeing this in a big way. Like, in other words, you used to get the whole, hey Daryl, can I pick your brain? Can I meet? Can I pick your brain? Now when you hand them a book, here's what happens. Your conversation when you do meet with them is going to be exponentially deeper because you would have told them all the stuff anyway in the book, but now they
Right,
know you, they know it, and now you can go in and do laser surgery. So
right.
I think your mind's gonna be blown.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and this is really meant to be as a tool for my clients to help
Mm.
them to understand, like I said, in the EOS space where it's 5 to 7 words. I work with a client once that, we're arguing about what the issue is. And I kept on saying, okay, but in 5 to 7 words, what's the issue? And about 10
Oh,
minutes of lead up and 10 minutes of lead out, I'm like, 5 to 7 words, 5 to 7 words. Finally gets frustrated. He's like, well, if you just shut up, I'll tell you what the issue is. And about 10 minutes later, he realizes, oh, so when you take all these words out, the setup, which is the sell, and the rationalization of the back end, and go, what are we trying to solve for? And you really
that's so
narrow
good.
it down to 5 to 7 words. It's amazing. In EOS, we talk about you got to dig, dig, dig to get to the root cause. And so it's the
It's
same
so
thing
good.
with my book and with the idea of the easy button is dig, dig, dig into all the things that are stopping you, stopping your business, stopping your future because you're making it complex.
Yes.
Dig, dig, dig into all the stuff that are over complexifying it to simplify it to make it to get the life you want. Truly.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
why the line simplify your path to success. It's like there's an easier way to get there. You just have to get out of your own way. And the best
That's
thing
right.
that I have found in working with clients is you've got to have somebody with a different perspective to come and tell you.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
You've
yeah. What
gotta
do they
have
say?
somebody from the outside to
Yeah.
come and see what you can't see.
They say, I love that quote about you can't see the label when you're
Yeah,
inside the
from the inside
jar.
of your own jar. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you have to. I like that. Another thing
yeah,
you said, about you can't scale complexity, meaning that if a lot of these companies are so complex, you can't
yep,
go to the next level because you're only gonna scale your problems, and so I like
right.
what you're saying. The easy button kinda, like, gets it simple so
Yep.
that you can scale. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree, and that goes back to the story of Apple, right? I mean, when Steve Jobs came back and they had gotten themselves from one computer, one idea that he built out in perfection, him and Wozniak, and then
Mm.
all of a sudden he's out, kicked out of his own company, and they're going to develop 17 or 18 different brand ideas. And he comes back and he goes, no, no. The reason why you're running out of money, the reason why Apple almost went out of business was because they had over complexified their business.
Mm, that's
And
so
so he
good.
came back, and the first thing he did was said, we are going to get back to the basics. And we hear this term in business all the time. We got to get back to the basics. Well, what does that really mean?
Mm, yeah.
Truly, what does it mean to get back to the basics? And the basics means that you cut through all the noise and go back down to we are here and we want to be here. And how do we get there? Step one, right?
Mm.
And that's why I use the example of how do you run a marathon? You don't go buy shoes on a Saturday morning and run the marathon on Saturday afternoon. You
That's
got to start somewhere. And
mm,
so the concept of this is really, really, get rid of the noise. And a lot of times, truthfully, and I'm sure you've seen this with many authors and all the work that you've done. And congratulations, by the way. Great to meet you and great to be
it's good to
part
see
of
you.
the
Yeah,
group.
yeah.
It's the noise in our head is crazy.
It's true.
We have tens of thousands of thoughts a day, and as one of the mind experts says, 70% of the thoughts that we have today are the same thoughts as we had yesterday. And out of
Yes.
that, about 75% of those thoughts are negative. So if
Mm,
you think about how our brain works, as Tony Robbins says, we got a 2 million-year-old brain. It's on autopilot. The amount that we control is very limited. So if we don't simplify the parts of the brain that we control to actually create the future that we want in it from a simple standpoint, our brain will take over and find all the reasons why we can't get to where we want to get to. And that's what
Good.
that's what I'm trying to help people with.
That's so good. Well, Daryl, listen, this was fantastic. I really want to encourage everybody. Few important websites. You have darylbraham.com. Uh, fantastic to learn about all that he can help you with in your business. Then, of course, you have the book on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Check that out in multiple versions. And then you have his EOS connection. And this is where he does that coaching. And it's a great model, EOS. I believe it's like over 200,000 businesses run on that now. Yeah, 275.
Yeah.
And it's just unbelievable. So we run on EOS. We love the people there. It's so cool. We're in the Strategic Coach Network together too. But our whole team is thrilled with you and this book. And Daryl, congrats on your launch
Thank
day.
you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to really thank you for the opportunity. And this is, the last message I'll leave with people is whatever your dreams are, write them down and start taking steps to get there. Like the only thing stopping you is because you're making it so hard. Just write it down. I want to be here when I'm X age and start working towards it. It's really can be that easy. And I'd love to help. So yeah, I'd love to help. Get a copy of the book. Yeah, I'd love to help.
All right. That's so good. Thanks so much, Daryl.
You got it. Thanks, Kary.